Hello, this is the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will be a link for that as well. Today, we're going to talk about a crime that happened 37 years ago. The murder of a mother and her two children on March 28, 1988. The mom, Angela Clay, was 29 years old. Her daughters were Latoya Clay, who was 9 years old, and Lakeisha Clay, who had just turned 6 years old 10 days before she was killed. This crime, which happened in Nashville, Tennessee, was known in the media as the Clay family murders. All three were shot and killed by this man. His name is Byron Lewis Black. This is what he looked like at the time. He is now 69 years old and currently sits on death row in Tennessee. And he is set to be executed on August 5th of this year, 37 years after the crime. Now, with the judicial system being a bit strange sometimes, Black was sentenced to life in prison for the murders of Angela Clay and her oldest daughter, Latoya. However, he was sentenced to death for the murder of the youngest child, Lakeisha, and is set to be executed for that murder. Now, I'm going to tell you about something that I have discussed before, at least one or two other times in previous videos, regarding the work release programs offered by prisons around the country and how the inmate ended up killing someone while released temporarily from the prison, unsupervised. This will probably also make a lot of you angry. You see, Byron Lewis Black was still serving time in prison when he killed Angela and her two children. He was in prison because sometime around 1986, about 2 years before the murders, Byron Black and Angela Clay were dating. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. Angela was married to a man named Benny Clay. This is a more recent photo of Benny Clay. But Angela and her husband were separated, and during a dispute with Angela's estranged husband, Byron Black shot and wounded the man. Angela's estranged husband survived, and Byron Black was charged and convicted and sent to prison. For those of you not familiar with the work release prison programs, there was a time that unsupervised inmates, typically those exhibiting good behavior, are allowed to simply walk out of the prison, complete a job somewhere that allows them to gain skills and earn money, and then return to the prison when they are done. And believe it or not, most of them do return. And even Byron Black returned, as I will discuss more a bit later. Now, I'm not sure if these unsupervised work release programs are still very common. I myself have seen supervised work released inmates cleaning up the highways or whatever. Supervised, there are some prison guards watching over the inmate workers. Well, sometime around March of the year 1988, Byron Black had qualified to be temporarily released, unsupervised, to report to a place of work, whatever that was. It was actually a weekend furlough. He was allowed to be gone the whole weekend. But what did he do during that time? On March 28th, Byron Black went to the home of his girlfriend, or possibly former girlfriend by this point, after spending 2 years in prison, and he shot and killed Angela and her two daughters. According to reports, Byron Black was able to cover his tracks because after family members that were concerned about not hearing from the Clay family all day, they notified police to conduct a welfare check of the home. Police arrived at the house about 9:30 at night. They found no signs of forced entry and the door was locked. Officers forced their way into the home through a window, and the three bodies were discovered dead in the house. The ongoing theory was that whoever murdered them was allowed into the home, someone that they knew. But investigators had very little to go on. The crime was a mystery at first. That tells me that Byron Black might have reported to work that day and then made his way back to the prison, where it was in fact reported that he returned on time, like nothing happened. As it turns out, several of Angela's relatives informed police that the day before the bodies were found, Byron Black had picked up Angela from Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where she was employed as a lab worker. So he had access to a car while serving time in prison and being allowed to participate in unsupervised work programs. According to the relative, Byron Black and Angela then drove to her mother's house to pick up the children. One more thing, that same relative told police that Angela was planning on telling Byron Black that she was ending the relationship so that she can return to her husband, Benny Clay. So Byron Black was a suspect from the start. One case file report states the following. The receiver from the kitchen telephone was found in the master bedroom. The telephone from the master bedroom was lying in the hallway between the two bedrooms. The defendant's, Byron Black, fingerprints were the only prints recovered from the telephones. 2 of his fingerprints were found on the phone in the hallway, and 1 was on the kitchen telephone receiver found in the master bedroom. But I'm guessing that this wasn't enough evidence because Black may have visited the home previously and used the telephones. However, when a lab performed ballistics testing of bullets recovered at the crime scene and from the victims' bodies, they caught a break. The bullets were a positive match to the bullet recovered from the wounded victim, Benny Clay, Angela's husband, when Byron Black shot him 2 years earlier in 1986. Now, this is incredible. That bullet from Benny Clay was still lodged in his shoulder. He was still carrying the bullet around in his shoulder. And it was Benny Clay himself who told police that the bullet is still in his shoulder, and it was he who suggested to investigators to remove the bullet for a comparison to the bullets from the crime scene where his wife and daughters were killed. So as it turns out, Byron Black had used the same gun to kill the Clay family 2 years later after spending 2 years in prison. How is that even possible? That tells me that Byron Black hid somewhere the gun that was used to shoot Angela's husband, Benny Clay, in 1986. It was never recovered by police. One more thing. When Byron Black was questioned early in the investigation, he provided alibis. And when investigators checked those alibis, the alibis were all false. Byron Black had lied about where he was during the time investigators believe Angela and her daughters were killed. For a long time, Byron Black had denied that he killed anybody, and he later said something strange. He told investigators that on that day, while temporarily released from the prison for his work release, also reported as a weekend furlough, that he had stopped by Angela's house and saw the 3 dead bodies. And he got scared and he left out of there and never told anyone. But that it was not him that killed them. On March 8th, 1989, about a year after the murders, on the birthday of the youngest victim, Lakeisha Clay, a Davidson County, Tennessee jury found Black guilty of all 3 charges of first-degree murder. And 2 days later, on March 10th, 1989, Black was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Angela, the mom, and the 9-year-old Latoya, and he was sentenced to death for the murder of 6-year-old Lakeisha. This will be the second execution in Tennessee this year after a 5-year pause. Oscar Franklin Smith was executed a couple months ago in May. Once again, Byron Lewis Black is set to be executed on August 5th, 37 years after shooting and killing a mom and her 2 daughters. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you're alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye for now.